Hey everybody, welcome back. Some horses, as you know, are very impulsive. Others lack impulsion. They need a little encouragement, a little motivation to understand that we want lightness. And that's the kind of confident and dominant horse that I'm going to be riding today. So join me today as I put ride number 2 on this young filly. We teach her how to become confident and sensitive moving forward and to really settle in while she's carrying a rider. I'm Steve Andrews, and this is The Natural Horseman. Okay, so let's get started. She's been warmed up. She's gone through, pretty much took her through the, all the prerequisites for halter braking. And I do that as a warm-up, just to test everything out. And what I'm doing here is just making sure that if I push and pull on her, she can stand very still before I step up into the stirrup here. So we'll step up. I want to see how she feels, seeing me out of both eyes. She looks pretty good. It didn't really throw her off there. I didn't expect that it would, but she looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and swing my leg over. We'll see how she does right here. All right. Before I climbed up, for the most part, I had my Makati all set, so I don't have to do too much fussing around once I'm up here. Okay. I really appreciate. See, something you can do is you can teach a horse to not wait for you while you mount, and it's really important to really get them set in their tracks before you start trying to climb on top of the horse. If you climb on the horse and they're not set in their tracks, you might throw them off balance a little bit. That can startle them. That can get you in trouble right from the start. So it's important to make sure they're settled in. Right here, she's moving her feet around a little bit. She's also trying to find her balance. This is the only second ride here, so she's trying to find her balance. She's not really sure what to do with me up here. She's getting a little emotional. So what I'm going to do is not necessarily try to stop her feet, but I'm going to flex her to each side and just see if she can come to a stop while I have her flexed. Now, something you see me do when I flex a horse like this, and I don't want them to move, is I'll sit pretty heavy on their back end. And that's going to make it hard for the back end to move around. If you notice that moving around she was doing, it's not very smooth. It's pretty rough and choppy. Because I'm in her way, I'm sitting on her back end. Let's see if she can just get settled in to a stop here. If you notice too, in this hackamore, you never want to have a steady pull on a hackamore, because you'll really dull your horse and desensitize them. They'll get really, really heavy to your aids. So there's never a solid pull in a hackamore. Okay, she was chewing there. It's important to allow her to have that time to process. What happens when they're licking and chewing is their emotions are starting to come down a little bit, and they're bringing saliva back to their mouth. That's why that licking and chewing happens. Good, that's better. So pretty quick here, I want her to start finding some forward with me sitting up here. And it's important that we get that forward motion from the hind end. So I want the hind end to start pushing before the front end starts pulling. So what I'm going to do to accomplish this is I'm going to sit heavy on her butt and bend her. Then I'm going to sit tall and add a little motion with my legs and see if she'll move her back end first. Okay, so right from the start, she's learning that when I sit up, I can ride that back end around the front. Okay, and it's also giving me an opportunity to see what she's going to do when I start moving her feet. So if she's going to do something silly, she might do it right there. I'm going to flex her around to the left. And here I haven't asked her to move, so I'm just going to sit heavy and I'll let her go. Good. I'm going to flex her to the left again here in a minute. We'll see if she wants to chew. I'll generally give them I know 10, 15, 20 seconds sometimes to process. She's looking around a little bit, so I think she's ready. Flex her. I'm going to sit up tall. I don't want her head getting too low, so I'm going to sit up tall, bump her head up a little bit, ride that back end around. And then while her feet are moving, let's see if we can get those feet moving. While her feet are moving, I'm going to see if I can take that bend out of her, release the reins, and just release when her feet are moving forward. Do the same thing on this side. Bump her nose to the right. Okay, so all of my releasing is happening when her feet are moving forward here. Because again, it's important that we get that motion, that forward motion from the front feet driving forward, or from the back feet driving forward, not the front feet, the back feet driving forward. There she goes. So I didn't do, what I want to point out is I didn't do a lot of kicking and squeezing and bumping to get her to go in a straight line. I was influencing her hindquarters to step off there. Okay, so right now you're going to see me using the reins just a little bit because I don't want her to get lost while I'm up here. I don't want her getting lost or scared. But at the same time, good girl. What's really important is she learns to move out with a rider on her back. Okay, so finding that forward's going to be the most important thing. Okay, she looks like she's settled. She's pretty okay here. So I'm going to start to add a little bit of life to what we're doing here. Something I want to point out is all this stuff that you've been seeing me do in the halter breaking process with some other horses. You'll start to see that stuff come through in these very first rides. You can probably already notice that she kind of has some, she's kind of sleeping here. I'm going to add a little pressure. She's already making some fairly nice turns. It's not because I taught her how to turn up here or anything, but because we've done it thousands of times on the ground in the halter breaking process. Okay, so as I ask for more forward motion, you're going to see me sit back a little bit. And the reason I like to sit back is all that power, like I mentioned before, forward comes from the haunches. Okay, so does all that power. If she were to do something silly, it comes from the haunches. See right there, she got a little bit lost, but if I can balance back there on those haunches, I have a better time of staying on top of her if she does decide to do something silly. Okay, so let's get her moving out here. Good. She's checking out Krista there on the camera. She's not really settled into forward yet. Okay, so I'm gonna have her keep going. I really want her to settle in, find some comfort moving out. There, that was good. So I decided to go to a little bit bigger of a measure to ask her to move forward because she really didn't care about me sitting up here. She was just kind of sleeping, moseying around. So you did see me pick my strings up. You always want to be careful about picking your strings up because if you haven't prepared your horse for that, they can really take you for a ride. Keep moving out, little girl. Keep moving out, little girl. Very good. Again, all I'm doing is just waiting for her to find some comfort moving forward with me on her back. She keeps slowing down. She hasn't really moved out yet. She hasn't really found any comfort moving forward yet. Good girl. I do appreciate how relaxed she is. You gotta always appreciate that. So something there right there, something I teach in the, as you guys have seen me do, something I teach in the halter braking process is a one rein stop. And that's all I did right there. I just took hold of her nose real quick, tipped it towards my stirrup, and I actually picked her nose up just a little bit, which is gonna encourage her to not only step up and underneath her belly a little bit, but also encourage her to sit on her butt. So right from the start, your horses learn to stop on their haunches instead of on their forehand. If it ever feels like your horse is stopping real hard and throwing you forward over their head, there's a good chance they're probably stopping on their forehand. And if you do too much hard stopping like that, you can really hurt your horse. I know she's only 2 years old, and generally for starting horses, depending on the breed, I like to start them 2 or 3 years old, but I'll just get them into a good place where they can walk, trot, canter, stop and turn, and that'll be good, especially for a 2-year-old. You know, and it might be 5 rides, it might be 15 rides in a year, but their minds are in a good place. A little bit of compaction on their joints can actually be good, help strengthen the joints, but you don't want to overdo it. So generally it ends up being somewhere between 5 and 15 rides that 2-year-old year. She's having a little harder time getting settled into the right here. There, she's getting a little stuck, and I want to be prepared there because she could jump right here. All right, so I pretty quickly want to get her untracked. There you go. Atta girl. Okay, same thing here. Get those feet moving. Get moving. Keep moving. Okay, if you notice on this right side, she really hasn't settled into any kind of forward yet. And she's feeling like she might go up, so we're gonna try to work through this here. Take your hindquarters away, really loosen them up. Release that into forward. There you go. Good girl. You gotta go. Good girl. Good girl. Now don't be locking up like that. Okay, right over here, where the sun turns to shade, she tends to be getting a little stuck here. Okay, so I'm going to address this spot, get that back end moving around, do something she's familiar with because we've done this lots and lots of times on the ground. Keep it moving. Again, I really want to get her settled in with the forward motion. She really hasn't found it, especially to the right here. Keep it rolling. Gotta go. Take that back end around again. Get it loosened up. Punch out of that. Good girl. So when they start really locking up like that, it's generally a wise decision to take the hindquarters away, loosen that up, and use those hindquarters to get your drive back. Loosen that back end up. Now this mare, this filly, she's pretty. You can tell I don't want to say lazy, but she tends to be a bit on that lazy side. It's taking an awful lot of pushing to get her to go. Okay, so what I might do on this ride is just get her settled into this forward motion. Good girl. There we go. Get her settled into this forward motion. Maybe call that a day. Really release on forward, because she keeps getting really stuck, really sticky, and I don't want to encourage that heaviness, that dullness, that laziness. So she does a nice job here, especially at this trot. Okay, she does a nice job here. I'm gonna stop her into the fence. Good. We'll give her a reward right there for putting a little energy and a little life into what she was doing. Right there, she started moving a little bit without me. You know, instead of hitting her face or trying to cause her to stop, I just sat and rubbed her. Okay, I allowed for that little bit of movement there. Now colts are all these, colts, fillies, they're all so different. Sometimes, if this were another, any other colt, you'd be really hesitant to pick these up, because you pick these up on something that's more sensitive. Right, every time you lift your hand like that, you're going to start running. So you really got to be aware of the technique that you use. It changes horse to horse. Good girl. If you guys have been following along with some of my halter breaking videos, my halter breaking classes on my YouTube channel there, you'll see that every time I use a halter, it's no different than using a hackamore. So what I do on the ground relates directly to what I'm going to do in the saddle. That's why I don't call my halter rope a rope generally, but I call it my rein. Let's see if we can influence her. Front, right, front, left, front, right. Come on. Front, right, front, left. Come on. There you go. Good girl. That was pretty good. I'm going to allow her to take a little break here, and we're going to try to find forward going to the left. It seemed like forward to the left was a little bit easier, so I don't anticipate that taking longer this time. While she's standing here catching her breath, I'm just going to rub on her a little bit. I'll practice flexing her left and right just a little bit. Just some simple stuff that if you start too soon, if you try to do this mind work too early on in your ride, your little 2-year-old might not be able to have the mental focus to stand still and work through this technical stuff. Flex her left a little bit. Flex her back to the right. Good girl. Good girl. I like that. Why don't you pick your head up? You don't need your head tucked like that. Pick your head up. Good girl. Flex her to the right a little bit. Good. Flex her to the left. She's doing a lot of processing right now, so I'm just kind of sitting quiet, doing some simple things, flexing left and right. I really, again, I can't stress enough, with this particular horse, I really want to reward that effort that she put into the forward. I know a few of you have been asking, what do you do with a lazy horse? Well, you just saw it, and that was just ride 2. You can teach them to be lazy, or we can work through it and say, well, when you put in some effort, I'm going to back off and we'll just leave you alone. And that was a perfect example for some of you asking about a lazy horse. Good girl. That was better. Something you guys have seen me do in a couple of my groundworking videos is you'll see me untrack a horse's hind end first. You'll see me move their hind end over with the halter and then shift their weight and rock them backwards. And generally it's easier to get a backup like that once the back end's loosened up already a little bit. There she goes. I'll just play with these simple little reining pieces, see if we can get the feet working. Move the back end over. There, and then step her back a couple steps. Good. Something on, I ride a lot with my body position and my weight, and just something on that I like to think, you know, I want to, really the most simple way I can put it is I want to balance with the horse to make whatever I'm asking the easiest option. So if I want her to move her butt, I get up off of her butt. There it goes. If I want her to rock backwards, I get up off of her back. There she goes. Good girl. That was better. If I want her to go forward, I want to drive off of her haunches, so I'm going to sit on her haunches a little bit. Notice I didn't say lean. I'm just going to shift my weight back and sit on her haunches a little bit. So let's see if she's ready to go forward and to the left. I'm going to sit back on her haunches a little bit. Drive her forward. Ooh, I like that. That didn't take much and she offered to go. Okay, she's trying to stop again right here at right where the sun and the shade meet. She's getting a little lost right there. The barn this time of day is casting a big shadow right over here. She's stopping right at that shadow. There we go. This is a lot better. She's blowing out already. She's finding forward. I think going to the left is just a little bit easier for her. Just feedback for me. Make sure I spend more time going to the right. Okay, I'm gonna put a little pressure on her, a little bit with my legs, a little bit with the strings. Get her moving out a little bit. Very good. Good. What I like about that is I didn't have to, good girl. I didn't have to get on my strings that time to get her feet to move. Okay, so I'll stop her and let her know that I appreciated that. That's really good. Okay, so same thing, she put in some effort there. I want her to know that I appreciate that. We're just gonna stop and rest. Allow her to appreciate this break that I'm offering after she put effort into moving forward. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that for her second ride. I'm gonna do just a little bit of footwork to finish up when she catches her breath, and we'll call that a day. I really like starting horses in a hackamore if I have the opportunity, and if I have horses and horse owners who are patient enough. I think it can do a horse a lot of good. If you're gonna do something like that, you know, you really need to make sure first you know how to use the tool, because you can't really use it like a snaffle. You know, a snaffle bit you can get away with murder practically. You know, you can get away with a lot that you can't get away with in a hackamore. So if you don't know how to use these tools, you can create a heavy-headed horse at best, at worst a dangerous horse. So you need to be able to know how to talk to the feet, how to use this, really how to use this tool, because it can end up just being a bluff and not much of a, you know, you don't really have control if the horse doesn't want you to. So, but on the other side of that, if you do want to dedicate yourself to learning how to use this, it is going to make you a better reinsman. Going to make you, because you're going to have to learn to be good operate a horse well in a hackamore. Anyone could just put it on and go through the motions, but to do it well, that's a whole different game. All right, so we're doing a little bit of footwork here. I'm tipping her nose out to the side, seeing if I can get her to actually step forward. There she goes. Forward around that front end. Good. So I'm not trying to discourage you guys from using it. I'd say, you know, if it's something you want to do, go ahead and use it. And I can do an educational video on how I like to use the hackamore. And like I said, it's just going to make you a better reinsman in the end. Especially when you do decide to switch back to a snaffle. Your hands are going to be that much better. I really like to balance with the horse. Good, that was better. Good girl. When you balance with the horse, you'll notice that everything that you're doing makes it that much easier for the horse to find. Very good. The same kind of thing, if I want to move the front end of the horse over, can I sit on her back end just a little bit and move that front end over? Let's see if she finds it here. Pick up that right front right now. Left front, right front, left front, right front. There it goes. Good girl. See if I can help her find that a little better. If I sit on her front end, see how she's tried to move her front end there. When I was sitting on her front end, it's not going to work. If I sit on her front end, she's trying to move her front there, and that's why it looks so rough. There, and that back end goes, it looks smooth because I'm sitting on her front end. I'll shift my weight back. Now that she's got her back feet situated a little bit, there, and that front end should be able to come through a lot easier. Let's see if she'll, right front, nope, right front, there it is. Right front, there it is. Right front, there it is. This is all stuff that I've done. There she goes. Good girl. It's all stuff I've done on the ground. I taught it, taught all the rein positions from the ground during the halter breaking process, so it's not totally foreign to these horses by the time I climb up on their back. It's just a matter of now they have to learn to do it all with you sitting on top of them. Good girl. You're a sweet girl, aren't you? Well, I think she's about done for the day. She's pretty mentally smoked here, so there we go. Get that front end coming through. Rock it back. Okay. Well, I'm happy with that for ride number 2. I hope that was helpful for you guys watching along, and for some of you guys who've asked me what to do with a lazy horse, how to sensitize them. This is more how you would prevent them from becoming desensitized. You know, this is a great way, a great example of that. But I appreciate you guys checking in. If this stuff was helpful, feel free to subscribe, follow along. If you're into the halter breaking stuff, go check out my halter breaking playlist. You can see everything I did prior to, you know, my first rides on a horse. But thanks for checking in, guys. I'll see you next time.